It is happening, folks. We've been talking about it now for about 4 years, and it is rapidly accelerating. I believe it will be the key story on election night, delivering victory for Vice President Kamala Harris, and that is Republican voters, even former Trump voters, even former two-time Trump voters who are now coming out very powerfully and saying they reject Donald Trump and they now strongly endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. We share those stories here on the MeidasTouch network. And as always, we give a hat tip to an organization called Republican Voters Against Trump for also highlighting these stories. I want you to take a look right now at former Republican Congress member Charlie Dent of the key swing state of Pennsylvania. He was in the 15th Congressional District. He's a classic Republican, a classic conservative. Here's what he just had to say on C-SPAN. Let's play it.
I have policy disagreements with Kamala Harris, just as you do, sir. But, you know, sometimes elections are not about right or left in terms of policy. Maybe it's sometimes about right or wrong. I think one candidate here has demonstrated his unfitness repeatedly, and the other, whatever you think of her policy positions, it strikes me as normal and honorable. And I hate to say it, but that's where we are right now, and I'm going to choose honorable over dishonorable.
Next up, I want to introduce you to Michael, a former Trump voter also from the key swing state of Pennsylvania. Let's play it.
I think he is dangerous to the world. I believe Donald Trump is dangerous to NATO and all our allies across the pond. I'm Michael. I live in Pennsylvania, and I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. I believe Donald Trump is a complete narcissist. He prevents legislation to further his own campaign. He claims to be intelligent, yet speaks like a sixth grader. Total disdain for the military. Says he loves the military, but yet makes very bad comments about the military. The last thing is just how he treats women horribly. Donald Trump only talks about retribution. Anybody within either party that says anything negative to him, they're either an idiot, they're stupid, and makes no intelligent comments, just keeps going after people. I think he is dangerous to the world. I believe Donald Trump is dangerous to NATO and all our allies across the pond. I believe Harris brings new energy to the Democratic ticket. I liked her choice for vice president, the governor from Minnesota. I believe she is intelligent. She will do well for the country. Do I believe in everything she says? No, but I don't believe any politician 100%. But I think she's smart, intelligent, will reach across the aisle to get things done as president.
Next up, I want to show you a former two-time Trump voter. Her name is Lori from the key swing state of Michigan. Watch what Lori says. You're sensing a pattern here, right, folks? Play the clip.
Donald Trump seeks to skirt the laws, twist the laws, use the loopholes, and serve himself. That is all that he cares about. I'm Lori. I live in northern Michigan. I voted twice for Donald Trump and immediately regretted it on January 6th, 2021. I believe that the felony convictions and the additional charges against Donald Trump certainly should preclude him from running for such an office in our country. I think Donald Trump choosing J.D. Vance was kind of the last straw in a back that was already broken for me. And then to realize that this man has a connection to that Project 2025, which is absolutely horrendous and nothing but backward movement for our country. There's no way that we can have J.D. Vance sitting in the number 2 chair. When I look at the character differences between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, there is no comparison other than they both have held high office and positions of power and authority. Donald Trump seeks to skirt the laws, twist the laws, use the loopholes, and serve himself. That is all that he cares about. Liking Kamala Harris, what's not to like? She fought her way to the position she's in. She surrounds herself with good people, happy people, joyous people, people who believe in fairness, people who believe in equality, people who believe in body autonomy. She just puts out there a belief that we can make our country more like the one I believe it should be.
Next up is Larry. Larry's a Republican from Utah. Let me share with you Larry's story.
Have you ever thought about how that Jan 6th anthem sounds to the 130 police officers who were beaten that day? How about to their families? I'm Larry from Utah. I am a Republican. I believe in the grand old party of Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan, but I do not believe Donald Trump won the last election. I feel that if I vote for Donald Trump in this election and sign my ballot is providing written evidence that I supported the actions of Donald Trump on January 6th. Donald Trump's dereliction of duty was beyond imagination. I, for one, cannot stand for that behavior. After all of Trump's mobsters were convicted and thrown in prison, he then called them patriots and hostages. And then it got worse. He recorded the Jan 6th anthem with them as a choir. Have you ever thought about how that Jan 6th anthem sounds to the 130 police officers who were beaten that day? How about to their families? I am voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I believe they exhibit humanity. I believe they're the type of leaders that can restore humanity to the United States. I encourage everyone to search deep within their hearts and ask themselves how they feel when they hear the Jan 6th anthem and vote Democratic this time.
You know, I've been speaking with a lot of people, whether it's been in Utah and Arizona, from the Latter-day Saints, the LDS community as well, which used to be a reliable voting bloc for Republican presidential candidates. But I'm telling you, from what I'm hearing from lots of LDS voters, they know that Donald Trump is a despicable, corrupt, immoral human being, and they're not supporting him. And they know Vice President Kamala Harris is reaching out to be a president for all Americans. Anyway, I want to share with you this. Former Republican Senator Gordon Humphrey. Senator Humphrey, the stage is yours.
It's one of the most important and consequential presidential campaigns in my lifetime.
A critical moment in American history, and a moment that these two Republican Granite State leaders say is too important to not speak out.
Dangerous to our safety, dangerous to peace, dangerous to democracy and freedom.
Former Attorney General Tom Rath and former Senator Gordon Humphrey are talking about Donald Trump.
I voted for Republicans for more than 50 years, and I can't vote for Trump. As a father, as a grandfather, as a veteran, as a former U.S. Senator.
They say, simply put, the former president shouldn't be back in the White House and that they're putting their support behind Vice President Kamala Harris.
There's something wrong with Donald Trump up here. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I've been around a few decades and I know something amiss when I see it.
They say they worry about his relationships with dictators.
The danger that Donald Trump poses to democracy are his frequent praises of dictators like Vladimir Putin. This is astonishing.
And that they believe, in comparison, Harris will bring people together.
I think this is an election that completely oversteps any partisan identification. This is not a Republican vote or a Democratic vote. This is a vote that speaks to what we want ourselves to be and what we want our government to be.
Next up, I want to share with you John is an ex-Trump voter, again, from Michigan, supporting Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's play it.
You can't have the party of law and order headed by a felon, and you can't have the party of common interest and common man headed by someone who only represents the 1%. I'm John from Michigan. I'm a former Trump voter, and I can never vote for him again. Donald Trump, he's not in touch with the middle class. He's not in touch with the common voter. I'm not really sure he's in touch with reality. I can't vote for him just based on the fact that he has been a habitual and serial liar. Donald Trump has shown us repeatedly that the one thing he cares about is Donald Trump. The Republican Party has become a almost parody of its former self. You can't have the party of law and order headed by a felon, and you can't have the party of common interest and common man headed by someone who only represents the 1%. Kamala Harris and I have sincere disagreements, but I do believe she's devoted her life to this country and to the rule of law as a prosecutor, as a senator, and as vice president. And so I would rather vote for someone who sincerely commits themselves to the rule of law than someone who only commits themselves to themselves. In 2024, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris, in spite of our differences, because she is the candidate best equipped to lead the American people and our democracy.
I want to now share with you former Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock. She's supporting Vice President Kamala Harris. Listen to what she says. Play this clip.
Here we are in the 21st century. We cannot have the kind of misogyny and attacks on women that we've seen from this team, not just Donald Trump himself, which is constant, but the people around him. I think internationally, this will make a big difference, because somebody who is bowing down to Putin, who's bowing down to these kind of dictators, we need the strength of a woman at this time who it doesn't get weak in the knees when you see a dictator. And I have to add, I have never in my political career been in a room with somebody so profoundly stupid as Donald Trump.
I think that regardless of...
Next up is Jeffrey. Jeffrey's from California, though not a swing state. You'll notice all these people are saying, you know what? I can't support this guy anymore. This guy's a felon. This guy's someone found liable for sexual assault. How can I look my kids in the eyes? How can I look my daughter or my wife or my sister, or how can I look anybody in the eyes with this sicko in Donald Trump? Here, play this clip.
I'm not voting for Trump. I mean, can you imagine if Reagan was alive today, what he'd be thinking? It's just asinine where we're at. My name is Jeff, and I live in California. I've been a lifelong Republican. I voted for Trump 2016, 2020. Will not vote for him in 2024. I am going to vote for Harris. January 6th was the last straw. His words incited that insurrection, and his inaction spoke volumes. I believe he was hoping to be able to claim martial law. It didn't happen, thank God. So I'm going to vote for Harris, and I'm not going to vote for another Republican until those Trumpers are out of office. The election denier and the January 6th thing, and it was a walk in the park. The Republican leadership perpetuated this because they could have banded together, it would have gone away, and it was an assault on our democracy. So I'm not voting for Trump. I'm not voting for Republicans to make sure that they don't fall under his spell. And as soon as they get out of office and the Republican Party comes back to its senses. I mean, can you imagine if Reagan was alive today, what he'd be thinking? It's asinine where we're at.
Next up, Joe from Michigan, a former Trump voter supporting Vice President Kamala Harris. Play this clip.
My vision of what I want for our country is what it was back when I was a kid, where our leadership respected each other, even if they disagreed. Donald Trump is everything that I don't believe in. My name is Joe. I'm a Republican, and I'm from the state of Michigan. Previously, I have voted for Donald Trump. I can no longer support Donald Trump, and I will be voting for Kamala Harris. The things that concerned me about Donald Trump during his tenure as president were, one, his lack of leadership during COVID. Another issue is the selection of J.D. Vance. I think he decided that he needs somebody to run with him that's going to look up to him and build up his ego. I believe Donald thinks he knows everything about everything, and he just wants somebody that's going to just sit back there and be a parrot and parrot what he wants. And I think that's what he's got in JD. Another concern I have about Donald Trump is the Project 2025 plan. My big concern about a second Trump turn is that this country's in trouble. It started in 2016. It started with Donald dividing us. I think for the best interest of our country, we have to say Donald is gone from politics. In 2024, I will be voting for Kamala Harris. My vision of what I want for our country is what it was back when I was a kid, where our leadership respected each other, even if they disagreed. Donald Trump is everything that I don't believe in.
And you know, folks, just even over the past 24 hours, just look at the chaos with Donald Trump. He's again attacking Pennsylvania, lying that there's fraud and cheating taking place in Pennsylvania. It's like, come on, such a loser mentality. Here he is also on Thursday. He sued CBS for $10 billion like a little whiny baby because he was too scared to be interviewed by CBS. And Vice President Kamala Harris was interviewed. He's like, they deceptively edited her interview, which they did not. And so he makes up a number and sues them in the Northern District of Texas so he can try to get in front of a favorable judge. I mean, come on, folks. Speaking of the Latter-day Saints community, the LDS voters out there, here's Republican former Senator Jeff Flake, again going on CNN about his support of Vice President Kamala Harris. Let's play it.
And in 2017, in your Senate floor speech, when you said you were not seeking re-election, you cited flagrant disregard for truth or decency. That was one of your quotes, and it attacked a regular and casual undermining of our democratic norms. You said that's most important. Why is that most important? Why does that outweigh some of those other policies?
Well, that's what it is to be a conservative. You want to conserve and preserve institutions of government. And one of our the fathers of the conservative movement is Edmund Burke, who said that, being a conservative is not just conservative principles, but being conservative in temperament. And you're right, the former president, through his actions and behavior and language, the crudeness and crassness have just demeaned politics. And we as Republicans have accepted that as normal. It's not normal. It should never be normal. And the more we indulge that, the further we are from where we ought to be as true conservatives. So I really take, Kamala Harris at her word when she says, and I know because I've served with her, that she'll reach across the aisle and she'll actually, for people that she doesn't agree with, she won't seek to jail them. She'll give them a seat at the table. That's what we need going forward.
Here is an article from The Atlantic. Terrific reporting from David Graham. And here is an article, Why Kamala Harris is Targeting Deep Red Counties. The Republican primary fueled Democratic hopes of winning these voters. Although Trump won the nomination, Nikki Haley won a substantial portion of the vote in presidential primaries, even after dropping out of the race. In North Carolina, she won nearly a quarter of the GOP primary vote, including 25.2% in Union County, 24.1% in Cabarrus County, 21.1% in Gaston County. If only a small portion of North Carolina Haley voters defect to Harris, it could swing the state. Michael Tucker, who lives in Gastonia, is at top of the list. A former member of the county GOP board in Charlotte's Mecklenburg County, he moved farther out seeking affordable housing. His politics have moved too. He'd supported Trump in the past, but backed Haley in 2024. Now he's the leader of Republicans for Harris. Quote, seeing his treatment of Nikki Haley, the treatment of those of us who voted for Nikki Haley, it really just sends a resounding message. You are not welcome in the Republican Party. He told me, there's a lot of Republican women who are appalled by the felonies, by the adultery, by the misogyny, by his lack of compassion towards women and men's issues. He said, adding that soccer dads were edging away for Trump for the same reason. Some polls suggest a wider pattern of what Tucker has seen up close. And by the way, I've seen that up close. Over the past 3.5 years, how many stories have I collected now? Hundreds of thousands, quite literally hundreds of thousands. A national survey released earlier this month by the Democratic firm Blueprint found that only 45% of Haley voters were committed to backing Trump, while 36% backed Harris. I'm also reflecting of just the behavior of this Trump campaign in the closing days. The top Trump surrogate holding a major fundraiser for Donald Trump at strip clubs in Las Vegas with flyers like this. You see Amber Rose and this other Trumper with legs open and boobs hanging out. And this is what they are doing, running or raising money for Donald Trump. You also got people, what in the world is going on? What are we watching? I mean, if you want to do that in private life, this is a political campaign. She gave a speech at the Republican National Convention. And it says, we F Trump. The heck? We F with Trump. The with is small. Then you've got the Trump supporters out there wearing diapers. Now, is this what it means to be a Republican? Wearing shirts that say, I support felons. I support insurrections. I'm wearing diapers. this is what the Trump supporters are doing. Like, this is not your Republican Party. This is MAGA. This is MAGA. I mean, the Republican Party needs to be rebuilt. This is MAGA. Then, of course, we get this news story out from Josh Boswell over at the Daily Mail, another victim of Donald Trump coming forward, saying that Trump was working with Jeffrey Epstein to recruit young women and paying for them, and tried to pay for her to go to the parties in Mar-a-Lago. She didn't go with the Epstein-Trump parties, but Trump groped her while she tried to fight him off at a beauty pageant, the woman told me. And this is in addition to the other story of the former swimsuit model who said that Epstein brought her over to Trump's office in New York in the 90s, and Trump molested her in front of Epstein. And she's coming forward with her story as well. That adds to dozens of other women who have made similar claims against Donald Trump. And of course, he's been found liable of sexual assault by a jury, and he was too scared to show up in court to defend himself, so he fled to Scotland and Ireland during the sexual assault trial. And then he calls other women horse faces and horrific things anyway. So you see for yourself. Share your stories below in the comments. I want to read your stories if they're similar to the videos, and I'll read them in a future video. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.